Hi, this is Peter Gould. I'm co-creator of Better Call Saul and executive producer, and I wrote this episode, which is the first episode of the season, Magic Man.
Hi, this is Jennifer Bryan. I'm the costume designer for Better Call Saul.
Hi, this is Larry Benjamin, one of the re-recording mixers for Better Call Saul.
Hi, I'm Thomas Golubic. I'm the music supervisor on Better Call Saul.
And I'm Chris McCaleb. I'm one of the editors on Better Call Saul, including the editor of this episode.
Yes, and we're starting off here with the big, probably the biggest sequence we've done with Gene so far on the show. I have to also mention this episode was directed by Bronwyn Hughes, who did a magnificent job. Bronwyn coming back to us for the first time since season 1 of Breaking Bad, and she just crushed this episode. She just did a wonderful, wonderful job.
Absolutely.
So Jennifer, could you talk about how do you dress Gene in general, but also do you think differently about costumes for black and white than you do for color?
Yeah, I definitely do. And I tell you what it does, though. It does give me a little bit of freedom because I don't have to be as dedicated to color. So it's more, when I look at things, it's more in terms of shades and tones and hues. So I know there were a couple of times things might have looked like a little bit odd in terms of color tone, but in the black and white, it's really great because it's just gradations and texture, which is very important for black and white.
And this is this is a VFX shot, and actually we saw a few of them there.
Yeah.
Chris, can you tell us let's talk about that shot for just a moment, that wide shot of the diner. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I mean, it was designed in, I guess, when you were in pre-production to be that angle, but when we mocked it up in the Avid, when we were, doing the editing, just to kind of get a sense of the scale, we pulled a still from North by Northwest. That was, and it lived like that for a while, and even having like little. What was his character's name in that movie? But he was like right on the road and was like a little
Roger
man on the
Thornhill.
road. Yes. And it was fun. We went, but it was a lot of permutations of that shot. But I think that they did just a phenomenal job.
There are birds flying in the distance and all kinds of other details here.
I'm sorry about that.
And that the place is a real place in Albuquerque.
That's right.
Turns out I was just dehydrated.
But it is in Albuquerque, and it does not look like this at all. And it was also summer while we were shooting, so nothing's real. It's all artifice.
Hollywood is an illusion.
It is indeed.
Can you and Frederica open?
Oh, the snow in the first shot, was that largely digital, or was that largely actual fake snow on the ground?
This afternoon?
It's a combination. It's definitely a combination. There was a lot of fake snow, or maybe they made snow. I'm not entirely sure. Peter, maybe you could speak to that, but and then we augmented it with some visual effects.
That's right. And Bronwyn, being Canadian, knows her snow very, very well.
Yes.
No.
This is actually the most we've ever heard Gene talk. It was interesting to me to hear, because Gene's only ever said a few words in the 4 seasons before this, and Bob, it really is a transformation that he does. He does change so much of who he is in these scenes with his character.
And even physically, he looks different. I mean, like when he was sitting on the bench, he looked so small. And I know that, Bob's not a small guy, but yeah, it's also like a physical transformation that he takes on.
District is 1094 Aurora Drive.
And all that radio stuff, all the fake police calls, that was all written by Val.
That's right.
Nice.
Valerie Chu, my then assistant and now a writer's assistant.
Hey.
Yay, Val.
Fantastic.
It's such a tricky thing because it has to feel real, but it also has to not distract from what's going on. It's such a fine line, and it really came out incredibly well.
Yeah, it sounds so authentic.
It is, but it's also tricky because it's all false alarms. He really doesn't get anything to be worried about from this, and that was very tricky writing and executing, because you naturally listen to it and think, man, he's in more trouble, but of course he's not. I love this shot. It's another Bronwyn special.
That's all. I don't think we augmented anything about that shot.
And Thomas, talk about this song, because I don't think at the time I didn't think we had enough room for a song.
Yeah, this is also Jason Newman, our music editor's extraordinary ability to compress time. Welcome to My World by Jim Reeves. It's a song from 1964, and it kind of gives us the false impression that everything's okay, and that it's dull and ordinary. And it just fits like a glove. And again, this is Jason's amazing magic of compressing time beautifully. And I think the song really establishes a nice tone of it's okay, everything's fine. Obviously, it's not, and we're about to find that out. But it's one of the great joys of the show is kind of giving these little subtle misdirects and letting us be in the mind of the characters and kind of hopefully finding ways of using music well. This ending was a really tricky edit. I think we had a lot of passes to get it right.
It's such a strange thing that we've been shooting this character over 5 years now in the same environment. It's a very odd feeling. We end up going back to the shopping mall at the beginning of each season.
Hey, it is you. I thought it was you. I wasn't all the way sure.
And now here's Don Harvey. He finally gets to talk. He was in the teaser for season 4, and all you could see were his eyes. And now here, finally, he gets to do this really fun scene. And Jennifer, talk about that sweater. Tell me about that sweater.
Yes, please. That sweater is insane.
That is insane, isn't it? Remember back in the 80s, they used to have I know the brand is still around, but they were really big. They were called Coogee sweaters. I mean, they were just these thick knitted, just exploded patterns like what he's wearing. I mean, that was the bomb back in the day. And it's actually, I think it's brown and beige, but man, it plays so well here. It almost looks to me like it could be like the jail cells that that Gene might be thinking he's gonna be behind, because this guy's got him all. This guy's got him made, and the sweater is really, I think it's quite threatening. I mean, look at that shot.
Yeah.
Like it would just swallow him up, and he literally shrinks at that bench. That's what I was saying before, how Bob just has this ability to just physically morph himself. And I that's what I see. I just see him just shrink. Come on, man. I would shrink if somebody came to me in that sweater like that.
I really enjoy this scene. I think when we conceived it and when I wrote it, I kept thinking of it as being a little almost Mamet-esque, because the characters keep repeating more or less the same idea in different words, and these actors just crushed. That is my favorite phrase today. They just crushed it. It's also beautifully cut. It really is.
A little rusty, but
Why, thank you, Peter.
next time.
Oh, are you here, Chris?
Oh,
wait a
hey,
minute.
it's me.
Wait,
Yeah,
did you
this
cut
was-
this?
This
Wait a
was
second.
it was a tough scene to wrangle. Again, for a reason that we talk about a lot, which is that there's sort of too many good options, and you can only be in so many places at once, and you don't want it to just feel like a catalog of shots. And I think that I really am happy with the way it turned out. And Bob is just both Bob and Don. They're just phenomenal together.
There's something. It's interesting because the rhythm is a little bit different in these scenes. than the rest of Better Call Saul. I don't know if I could put my finger on exactly what's different, but there's just it's a suspense piece, which is just a little bit different from what else the other things that we do on the show.
So nice with these quick, nervous shots. It's such a nerve-wracking sequence.
Yeah, it just builds up a sense of dread.
And now here we come to the man. I have such emotions watching this scene.
Yes.
Because this was for our world the last piece that we're going to see of Robert Forster.
Mm-hmm.
And this was actually originally written to be a one-way phone call. I didn't think it would be possible to have Robert physically in the shop. But Melissa Bernstein, our brilliant producer, realized that they were shooting Robert in the vacuum cleaner store for El Camino. So they we had these pages done a little early, and Vince very graciously agreed to just shoot these shots. So these shots of Robert were actually done months before the material with Bob here, and it's I don't know. I'm just so glad that we were able to make it work. In fact, Robert, we had basically finished the episode when Robert passed, and Vince watched it, and he asked me, as a favor, if we could see if we could put a little bit more Robert into the scene, and we did. We went back to the scene pretty late in post and took another look at the cut, and we added another longer shot of Robert, and I'm so glad we did. Because he really was a unique, wonderful guy. And I feel so privileged that I got to direct him and got to write for him. Really, really special guy.
7 a.m. Same spot.
This shot's interesting. This was done, we ran out of time on the day. And so this shot was actually done later. And Bob got very lean as the season goes on. He was working out a lot and eating unusually for him, and he actually got thinner. And the first time we saw it, it looked like he suddenly got thinner for this one shot. So we actually stretched him out a little bit just for that one shot, a little bit horizontally. Isn't that right, Chris? That's how I remember it. Anyway.
Absolutely is what we did, and I mean it's hard to believe you would not know that if we hadn't said it. And it's very subtle. It's not a huge amount. It's like maybe a couple percent.
It's the difference between Bob before he went out in the desert and shot episode 508 and after.
Right.
This was literally one of the first things we shot. And now it's right in the middle of it is a shot from much later in the season.
Peter, I love what you've done with Joey Reinisch to further degrade Curtis Thurber's main title. It's so cool. I love the evolution of it. It's so cool.
This is a good point. Curtis did our main title. I'm really proud of the fact that we did it in-house. Most shows go to a special title house to do their titles, and Curtis did ours. And then each season they get a little bit worse, and Joey, I don't know what he put the titles on the floor and he stomped on them or something because they look even better worse than before.
Jimmy, what are you?
We're picking up right where we left off with these two.
You're changing your name. No. Well, yes, but it's for my class.
Jennifer, can you talk about how you dress Ray?
Oh, wow. First off, I have to tell you, it's a privilege, and Ray is just amazing. We are very much, and from the very beginning, when we started season 1, we really synced on what her character would say in terms of clothing, and it's a really, really strong part of her character. I would say as important as Jimmy's suits. So we, we try to keep it real, interesting. She has a narrow closet, and in terms of our color and cut, but within that, she's got some bad girl stuff. When she goes to the other side. I try to reflect that in some of her blouses. She's just a joy to dress that character. Yeah.
It's interesting. The two of them really seem to go together. Of course, this is what you had them in at the end of last season.
Right.
And they go together. They feel like they're really on the same planet.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in this episode, we go to a very different spot. And there he is signing as Saul Goodman.
Wow.
Thank you, honey.
End of an era.
Yeah. Well, the beginning of one.
Era, yeah.
So, Thomas, we have this location, El Mish, and there's always music playing in here. Can you? What does that mean to you?
I mean, it's an opportunity. It's also interesting because you have to figure out how to make things compelling and at the same time not distracting. And we have a lot of dialogue in a lot of these sequences. And it's a really interesting challenge with this show. I love the fact that when we come in here, like, we also have to assume, is this the old man who's kind of lost control of his restaurant who's choosing the music? Is it Lalo who's choosing the music? It's a little bit of like power play, like who is making the selections and what volume is it at? And trying to also figure out what level of authentic regional Mexican music is being played. And I think this one was El Contrabandista, which was sort of an interesting regional Mexican song that kind of played subtly in the background. And I think it manages to stay out of the way, but keeps the tension up.
Yeah, I always get worried personally when we have music with lyrics playing under dialogue. I'm worried that there's going to be a clash of some kind. And so that's one thing that you're just so great. You and Jason Newman, our music editor, are so great at kind of weaving it. And also often in a longer scene in this place, there'll be 2 or even 3 pieces, and finding the moments for transitions that don't feel like we're making an editorial comment on the scene. It's always tricky. There's no rule book for it. Never.
One of the best things about, in many ways, our show is figuring out how music can be invisible but impactful. And that's a very delicate dance. A lot of times it's kind of figuring out what level of invisible are we? Are we 30% invisible? Are we 50% invisible? And where does the personality kick in? And when are we getting in the way? Here's a fun bit. This is Shin, Let's Go Together, which was a wonderfully inexpensive song we were able to fit in the show because we had a lot of music in this episode.
This location.
Yeah, let's talk about this location. This season, something very special happened for us, which is that Mark Freeborn was our production designer for this season, and he was the production designer on the majority of Breaking Bad, and he came back for this particular season. I would love to have him again. I love working with him. I don't know if he will make it back, but he's incredible. And Christian De La Boya, who is our location manager. I can't say enough about these people because there's all these requirements for this location in this episode and the next one. And Christian read the script and he understood exactly what we were looking for. And the two of them took a place which really looks very neutral if you were to go there in person. And they took it and made a whole world out of it. And they created this whole little world, and it's really spectacular.
We should mention because a lot of people have asked how the pipe shot was done, and it really was a camera dropped down a pipe, and we centered it, and we did some little magic things to it, but it's such a cool effect. I love it.
There's no substitute for doing it for real if you can. And we love to, even if eventually sometimes little gimmicks like that end up having some digital help. It's just wonderful to start with something that's real.
I love Nacho's subtle authority in this scene. Like, the hierarchy is so clear. Lalo is this new dangerous presence that nobody knows. subtleties of Michael's performance is so great.
And Adrienne Lovett, who plays Mouse, is
great.
so great here. We thought a lot about let's have what are the women like in this particular world, and she just brought it. She's actually very funny comic actress. She's done a lot, and she really brought it here. And I think she just brings great presence and great focus to the scene.
And I also like the fact that she didn't seem intimidated by Lalo at all.
No, that's true.
You know?
It's true.
Yeah.
Maybe once she gets to know him.
Yeah, well, maybe then.
Yeah, we should say a little something about Tony Dalton, who he was in 2 episodes last season, season 4, and he plays a giant role this season. He and Michael Mando work together a lot, and they work beautifully together. Tony is a very interesting actor. He's got an elegance to him, a savoir-faire. He really seems he reminds me of a movie star from the 40s because he's got this magnetism and this effortlessness to how he presents himself, and he is also truly bilingual, and which is wonderful because it allows us to write scenes that shift back and forth between Spanish and English, and he in a very smooth way. And I just think he's terrific. And he and Michael of course has this tremendous intensity, and the two of them play off each other just so well.
Yeah, Tony's so charismatic. He just has this swagger, this subtle swagger that just takes over a scene. It's just this wonderful presence.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's like Errol Flynn.
Yeah.
I think
he's got that look. He sure does. Yeah.
I think he could. We should have him do some sword fighting before the show's over.
We got to just find a good beach in Albuquerque and put a pirate ship on there. Let him go for it. Albuquerque.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, Jimmy loves it. And don't worry, I'm using
And the wonderful JMM. I love the running theme of what the JMM initials mean.
Your money?
It's that's the great thing about having a brilliant writer's room. You have there are a lot of people in there who are great with wordplay. Clearly, as you can hear from my voice, I'm not great with wordplay, but we have a whole list of all the things that JMM could mean, and I think we ran through most of them by the end of the season.
Again, that's the real mistake. World's second best lawyer, because Saul Goodman is going to give you a run for your money.
So, Larry, for you, is it a very different experience working with sound that was shot on location versus sound that's shot on the stage like this? Is that a different experience for you?
It is, and fortunately, we have exemplary production tracks recorded by Philip Palmer, who's fantastic. Always delivers a rich, full track. So even the location stuff has a very good base of material to work with. But he has a lot more challenges in the field, and the miking is going to be a little bit different. We'll have to kind of lean into using lavalier, the hidden mics, the wired mics, as opposed to the boom microphone, which is a fuller, richer sound. So on these sets, I have really good coverage. Both of these guys are covered on a boom, and in addition, they also have a lav, because sometimes you guys love to shoot wonderfully wide cinematic shots, but if we were to use the boom audio for that, it would be too reverberant and far away. So it's kind of a blend of both. But to your point, the more controlled environment of the soundstage is certainly preferred.
I just think it makes such an enormous difference when you have the whole voice. I don't even have the technical ability to explain what it is, but there's sometimes a thinness to voices that I hear in movies and television. And one of the things, you guys work so hard, even when you do have the material that's off of lavaliers or something, to create, to make it sound full and present.
Right, well,
it's interesting because if it doesn't sound that way, kind of distances you from the scene, at least in my book.
It does, and you have really astute hearing. You are really sensitive to that, which I appreciate. And if there's even the slightest bit thing, you can sense it. And you're right; it almost sounds disembodied if it's not, centered, tied to the scene acoustically. Exactly right.
It's one of the things that always annoys me now going to live theater when it's mic'd in that everyone's wearing body mics, and the sound will seem to come from behind you when you're watching people sing on the stage. Anyway, that's me. Nothing to do with the show.
I love it so much about these two characters is sort of how they speak with each other, and so much of the power play and the complexities of their relationship has to do, I think, with how we hear them. So it's very interesting in how you mix it, Larry, and just being able to kind of put Ray in a certain point and put Bob in a certain point. And I'm sure a lot of that comes into the power dynamics in the scene.
Yeah, and we don't want to upstage their performance or force their performance. Sometimes mixers, if it's not done carefully, you can add dynamics in a performance that actually doesn't belong there. Meaning, if someone's kind of low, kind of a sotto voce, soft voice like this, we want to preserve that and not overplay it and not, take the dynamics or overmix, if you will. So yeah, it's kind of trying to preserving their performances, which are stellar.
He's so confident at this point. He's so confident that she's going to see what he sees with Saul Goodman.
All those slippers.
Yes, Jennifer, talk about how you dress.
I was looking at that first shot, in Missy where he's got his foot up, and thank you so much for showing off his footwear. I mean, this is a guy that I got to do him head to toe, and it's the suede driving slippers. They've become like his signature. And then the other one that you just saw there is actually like a synthetic eel skin. It's the shark in him, and I found a way to put that sharkishness, in Lalo. So yes, the shoes are quite special. They kind of have a savoir-faire about them. And I love the way the lighting hits the shirt, Peter.
Shimmers.
Remember this shirt? Yes. And I remember in the beginning we were when we were doing our costume approvals, where you were a bit I think unsure of it, and I was like, Peter, we gotta let him wear this shirt. And, and man, the lighting was perfect for that, because it picked up those little diamond slubs. I love it. It's kind of reptilian. So between that and the loafers, the guy is a snake in the grass in his clothes.
Jennifer, you're always right, and I have to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Peter.
Interesting enough, this location that we're looking at is every time we go to the chicken farm, Gus's factory farm now, it's often a different location, because the real factory farm has been demolished. All those chicken coops were demolished right at the end of Breaking Bad. I remember actually season 4 of Breaking Bad, they were demolished. So we've had to use a series of different locations for this. And this particular location, and if you squint, I hate to give away a secret, it's really the same location where the cousins walk in episode 8 this season, when they go to the what we call Alibaba's cave of the Salamancas. It's really the same. It's the same. I think we're using slightly different rooms, but it's the same location. I think it works great. It smelled like paint, though, I will say.
God, such subtle acting from Tony.
Pretty great.
Jeez.
And Chris, how do you decide when you're going to let a moment like that play out, and when you're going to? Because you have the option of making these moments play much faster or much slower. How do you decide what's the right rhythm?
Well, I'll measure the film out from my arm to the end of my hand, and that's a close-up. That's one of the things I love about working on this show and watching this show, is that we can let those moments play out. And so you just kind of have to feel the music of the scene. When the rhythm feels right, you cut to something else, but you can really linger on some of these people and their faces and the moments that they're creating for a long time.
And Gus is performing, so you kind of have an actor performing for a character who's performing for another character who's also performing. So there's many layers to it. It's really fun to kind of slowly let them reveal themselves. And then here's another guy who's performing.
I'm always very aware of how we meet our characters at the beginning of a season. And I love Bronwyn's showmanship about revealing Mike in that scene. And it's really nice.
That's not him, is it?
It is.
And of course, this chicken chiller is again another Mark Freeborn special with all the physical effects to create the flickering lights and so on. But hey, let me ask you this, Larry: how do you deal with the fact that there's all this construction going on while these guys are talking?
We embraced whatever was captured natively on set, and we actually intentionally crowded it with more. I mean, Philip did such a good job of kind of isolating the practical effects that we had to really put layer upon layer of adding things in. If you remember, we built it up with many, many different layers. Nick Forshager and Kevin Valentine mixed in these wonderful effects, all the saws and the drilling and the machinery, the welding. Try to kind of crowd them a little bit just to keep it active, to show that it's an active site. And then on dialogue, I would actually put some reverb on it to sell the sense of space, the scope. You love that. We put a bit of slap. And we do that in all our environments to kind of ground us so that it's not artificial. You don't want to notice the artifice of things just sounding dead. It's like, how big is this space? Even beyond what we visually see, how big is that warehouse? And is it turning around the corner, reflecting off the back walls? Are they hard surfaces, soft surfaces? And you really, you give us a lot of latitude creatively for, painting with sound, what we can do in terms of sound effects and treatments and such.
Well, it makes the show so much better. It's the work you do. It's part of one of the pleasures of doing my job is that I get to put my nose into every phase of production. From obviously scripts and casting and sets, and then get to go through post. And it's at each step, it's so interesting to see the minds and the talents of the people who work on the show, making it better and better, and seeing things that would have never occurred to me.
I think that's a joy for all of us, is like each of us gets a chance to kind of watch from afar as everybody else does heroic work. Like, I love when I see cuts and I see Jennifer's choices or Chris's sense of pacing, and I just feel so lucky. So by the time it gets to Larry and myself, we're just trying to figure out how we can value add to something that's already incredible.
Exactly.
And I don't want to miss talking about Javier Greja, because he is great. He's a wonderful actor. He's actually a good friend of Bryan Cranston's.
Yes.
I think they were roommates.
Yes, I think they were. Yes, in New York.
He is, he is the real deal. He's a real theater movie actor, and he's always great. And this, by the way, this whole conversation turns out to be very, very important as we go on with the series, actually.
Nunca será uno de los nuestros, pero gana dinero. Con tal de que traiga lana, Eladio está contento. Eso es todo lo que importa.
Okay, now coming up in the next scene is a tour de force on many levels. But Larry, can you talk about what we're going to see as we cut here?
Sure. Sonically, it's this big montage, if you will, a collection of a bunch of different songs and little snippets of songs and music playing all at the same time, trying to just tell a sense of the scope of how many people are backed up in line waiting to hear Saul give his spiel. But everybody's got a different kind of music, and Thomas and Jason prepared some incredible tracks, and I'm treating them all sonically a little bit different based on the kind of stereo system each car would have, and panning it by. Maybe this car that's bouncing up and down has really deep bass. They've got like a subwoofer in the trunk, and so we can kind of hear that going on. So there's probably at any given time 4 or 5 different pieces of music playing, and then we're panning them around. We mixed this show in 7.1. We're panning them around in the surrounds as we visually see them pass by. giving each a little bit more heft and different, what we call futzes, little different treatments. So yeah, it's kind of a fun thing. It's just like a big miasma of mirth.
It's incredible.
I think the Pirates of the Caribbean approach has become like a Peter Gould special. I love it. It's like the opportunities are always so exciting. We're like, oh my God, how many cues is this going to be?
Next.
It's a remarkable shot. Paul Donahue, our A-camera operator, ran the Steadicam work there, and it was remarkable. Now, Chris, here's another tour de force. It's a montage.
It is. This was fun. It was very challenging, and I know there were any number of versions of this. Kind of trying to find the thread of exactly how it would play out, because you had written it in a very specific way, and then it was shot with that in mind, but there were other things that were shot, and it was just sort of trying to find the thread of it, and also trying to make it unique in a way, because this is a show between Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul, a show that's had so many different types of montages, and wanting to find ways to make it its own piece. And I'm also really happy with how it turned out, because we really started diving into the audio and making it seem like something that was bigger and more full, like a huge crazy night for him, with the audio, which I'm sure was a challenge for you guys.
It was fun. I remember when we were on the stage, you wanted the energy of the song a little bit more and more, and it was a tricky balance of not wanting to bury Saul, but you're like, don't be afraid of it. We're not so concerned about every little thing he says. It's more just selling a feeling of him selling. He's basically saying the same spiel to different funny things. So we could press it a little bit more, keep the energy going. And then you had all these wonderful fun sounds, of course, with the bell, but also little pieces that we see in each clip. You would accent. Love that. You did a terrific job cutting this, Chris.
Oh, thank you. It was tricky, but I think we ultimately came out with something that I really like a lot.
Yeah.
It's fun, and it does. It feels like an exhausting night that he had.
It's interesting. Hitting the bell was Bob's idea on the day. I was there for this one. He asked for a bell to start hitting the bell, and boy, it became key to the whole sequence. The other thing I remember is sitting for I had a weekend while we were just about to shoot this, and I spent pretty much the whole weekend writing more pocket dialogue for this, because I wanted Bob to have as much to work with as possible. And some of what he does is improvised, and some of what he pulled from the page after page of pocket dialogue that I did. It's just really fun. Thomas, what is the piece of music?
It's Lee Morgan's Sidewinder. It's a super fun track. I think that was I think, Chris, you had placed that one originally. I know we had.
That's a Peter Gould special.
Is it Peter Gould special?
Yeah. Yes.
We
I love it.
Beat it for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we never quite did. It just kind of fit like a glove, and it didn't distract. I think, to Larry's point, it was really tricky to have something that has really great energy to it, shows the joy that Saul is having, and at the same time doesn't distract from the dialogue.
Yeah.
It's a group effort. That I have and Thomas knows this, I have a soft spot for certain kinds of jazz, and I have to make sure that my personal preferences don't shape every piece of music that we use. But on the other hand, I don't think there's not a lot of TV where they're using Lee Morgan.
No, we ended up with the right track. It's magic.
That was and by the way, I have to also give credit to Lavelle Crawford, because I think I had written that whole jazz about Magic Man for the interior of the tent, but I think Lavelle, if I remember right, Lavelle came up with the idea of saying using Magic Man in that last sentence that he says, and I think it works great. It works great. And then, of course, here we have Here we have it's a really talented group, international group of actors here. We have playing, we're calling them the Germans, but they're not really all Germans. Ben Bella, who plays Kai, and Stefan, who plays Casper, probably the ones that you recognize the most. They really are a terrific group.
You're in the Cherokee. Keys are inside.
And this was an important scene for me because I know that half the audience probably thinks that these German guys are going to get shot and buried in the desert when things go wrong with their boss in the previous season. But I thought it was important that Gus doesn't just kill his associates willy-nilly, especially the ones who've been helpful.
I love how pro this is. Like, Mike is a total pro. He's everything's thought through. The cars are ready. The documents are ready. He makes a little error of judgment here.
He makes there's an error. There's some errors in judgment that you won't realize until you see season 6. Mm-hmm. There's some errors in judgment here. Oh, that's a little teaser.
Ooh, I can't wait.
Chris,
and that was improvised. That just happened. No, I tell you, it was very satisfying to see Kai, after him being such a pain in the ass for the operation in season 4, see him take one in the chin. I think that was
long time coming.
Satisfying.
Is there one of your editorial tricks there?
In that, I think we took a frame out, but we had a version where there were too many frames taken out, and you definitely had us pull it back. I don't know if it's you or Bronwyn, but yeah, we had to pull it back. But yeah, just to get add a little bit of impact to the hit. Sometimes that's a pretty widely done thing, is just take a frame out.
Yeah,
works. When it works like magic.
And their performances were really working too. Jonathan really sold it, and so did to Ben Bella. I mean, he really flew back like that. I mean, that was no joke.
I love how this confrontation really rattles Mike. It's such a beautifully written idea, and Jonathan Banks just kills it.
He's magic. He's magic on screen, that guy. There's no other way to put it.
It's a nice touch, Chris, that we leave the last two from a distance. Like, the key beats in the scene are all done, and this is just basically the last bit of business.
It's a beautiful shot.
I also want to mention Eric Steinig playing Nick there, Mike's guy. Again, someone we saw in Breaking Bad.
Well,
last of them got on a plane for Zurich an hour ago.
So, Jennifer, can you talk about dressing Gustavo Fring?
Oh my God, yes. And also I want to jump back. I was just looking at the Germans and recollecting how we had to make them not look American and have that kind of a Euro look. Remember that, Peter, when they first came on, and just to set them apart, so they just did not look like they were Americans. And I think we were able to accomplish this. And oh my gosh, for Gustavo, it's that tone on tone, very monochromatic look, always tailored, regardless of the situation that he's in. Even when he's in his Pollos Hermanos outfit, I mean, I don't know any fast food uniform that looks as Brooks Brothers as his does. I just think, he's regardless of what he's wearing, he's that guy. And it plays well against the kind of casualness of Armentrout, of Mike. When those two butt head to head and they don't agree and they have their differences, I think their wardrobe choices and style really helps to kind of, set up that divide in their character and in their moral differences.
It's beautifully said. And of course, Giancarlo wears clothes.
Oh my gosh.
So, well, there's an elegance to this guy and a precision to everything that he does. You just can't take your eyes off him. He's just amazing.
Magic of yoga.
Absolutely. And here's one of my personal favorites, Peter DeSeth, who is a local actor in Albuquerque.
Fire, yeah.
He's great.
Who appeared in episode 2 of season 1, and we love him. He's funny. He can do anything. This guy really is a treasure. He needs to get his own TV show. He can be Mr. Bean if he wants to be, but he also has, there's a reality to him. He got great timing. He's just wonderful. And Brahman again, just she has such an eye for composition and for knowing, for instance, why to go to handheld here and why it's the right thing. Really interesting.
Gravenhorse case?
Well,
As you know, the DA's office has been accused of misconduct in the Gravenhorse case. Would you comment on the latest development?
the Graven what?
Her outfit.
It's like, what the hell's going on here?
Brilliant.
And of course, here we have Haley, Josh, and Julian, our U of M film students.
Yes.
I like they have 3 microphones between them.
That's right. Because Julian is sound guy, and he has to do a boom, and there's also a mic on the camera. So yeah,
and
the handheld mic. So yeah, it's going to sound extra good. And look at Julian. Look at Julian pointing the mic. The person who's talking to.
He's awesome.
And I have to say, Jennifer, this was one of my favorite outfits on Bob.
That yellow, right?
That yellow.
Oh my gosh.
It's just wonderful.
It glowed. It really did.
And Chris, I think in post we had to make this video look extra bad.
We did. We definitely did. That's my favorite moment when it zooms in on him and he's just, it's like stays on him just a little too long. I love that.
Not for me, for a friend.
Yes.
Yeah, Bob's playing it like he's not. And this is something we talked about. He wanted to show that he's not quite sure how to be Saul Goodman on camera yet. It's still a little bit. Rough. He's still not quite as smooth as he's going to be. And I just love that touch.
You notice his business card matched his shirt?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a lot of matching going on this season with Saul.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's coming into his own.
I love the sequence. It tells you so much about the justice system and how this poor kid is going to gamble with everything. And poor Kim is trying so desperately to move in the right direction. And he just thinks that he can somehow win against the odds.
Yeah.
And this is Roland Buck and Paige Collins. And they are
so
I don't know the baby's name. But the baby's great. And they really are wonderful. And this is again Roland, anyway, I know was cast in LA by Bialy Thomas. They really are unrivaled. He's just wonderful. He's a little bit. I sympathize for him, but I also, what a fool to gamble the way he wants to, especially with his family at stake.
You care so much for them in such a short amount of screen time, and you see both of them making terrible mistakes.
Yeah.
As I was writing this, and I don't think it's something I realized when we were breaking the episode, that these two really do remind Kim of her and Jimmy in a bad way. So it's an interesting. I didn't quite realize it until we were pretty far down the road with it, but it's an interesting. It's and this is one of my favorite scenes in the first half of the season. Actually, there's something about it. I love how torn Kim is, and Ray, of course, is fantastic, and Bob. Everybody's great, and she's really on the horns of a dilemma, and she makes a choice here that I understand, and I think maybe it's the right choice to deceive her own clients, but it feels like the first step down a road.
Cross the line.
Yeah.
And speaking of crossing the line, Bronwyn does something very clever here, where if you watch this part of the scene, Bob is looking right, Ray is looking left. But then keep watching the scene, and you'll see that she does a transition from one side of the line to the other, and it's
right
there. There we go. Now it's a different scene, and it's just these are little touches that make it feel like a movie, that tell you that it's visual storytelling.
They're telling a story to these two we're watching.
This was a tricky thing with audio as well, trying to determine like how much they could hear, because there was dialogue we needed to hear, but we couldn't have them hear it.
Hear too much, right?
Exactly. I remember we played with that. What's the proper volume to hear them at, and how distant do we want to make them? With reverb.
This is the stuff that keeps me up at night. It really is.
Jackass now. Wait till he gets back from that clown college.
Jimmy, no.
As a writer, it's rare. Scenes can be great, but they're usually pretty different from what you expected. And then sometimes the scene is pretty much what you were hoping for, but that much better. And this is one of those scenes. This is a scene. I'm really proud of this one. It just kind of clicked, and I really appreciate the hard work everyone put in.
Well, it feels like for the entire season, it's such a huge turning point for both of them. In a sense of like, how do they handle this? Is how they handle their relationship going forward.
So,
the moments I'm really proud of from the writers' room are when we get a character on the horns of a dilemma like this, and she could really go either way. Chris, what? Now you're known. I don't know if this scene has this particular front, but you're known for using split screens occasionally. Why would you use a split screen?
Sometimes we do that. Just to either extend a moment or just alter the rhythm of a performance ever so slightly in a way that will hopefully be imperceptible. If you didn't know it, you wouldn't be able to tell. And just sometimes, for whatever reason, we just need more of a breath between lines. We need somebody to take a little bit of a longer pause before they start speaking. And, so sometimes we'll just change up the rhythm of the performance, a little bit with some digital trickery.
Are you sure we still can't get the 5 months?
I notice it's especially true because we use a lot of over-the-shoulder shots. Where you see both people in the frame, and sometimes folks respond faster than you want them to, and that's one of the times I've noticed you using that trick. It's using a split screen to slow down a response. In fact, instead of making it faster. It's very interesting.
It's a wonderful tool that we have. I mean, that's not a tool that has existed in most of film and television history. And, you go back even into the 90s and the early 2000s, or even the early 2010s, the technology existed by then, but, it was prohibitively expensive. And now these things can be done, relatively simply. And it's just another, it's just another paint, another color that we can use in our bucket of paint.
It's another paintbrush.
Yeah.
And this is a scene. I love this. It's also, this whole sequence is kind of a statement of what this season's going to be about. And I'm really proud of it. I think Bronwyn and Bob and Ray, the whole cast, Robert, of course, everybody did a wonderful job. It was a fun way to kick off the season.
And what a joy for us.
Yeah, what a tour de force.
What a canvas.
Show.
And this is just the beginning, of course.
Yeah.
There we go. These people are all very important. Anyway, thank you guys so much for being on the first one back.
Oh, thanks for having us, Peter.
Thank you. So honored.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Awesome.